Hey everyone, Kenton Covester here, founder of RocketBlocks. In today's video, we're going to sit down with Kevin Yien, who brings a wealth of product management knowledge to the table. He's been at Square for the last 3.5 years, where he started as a product manager focused on their restaurants product, and has recently moved into a product lead role where he's overseeing product management, engineering, as well as a few other functions focused on a customer lifecycle platform product. So we're going to cover a ton of great product management topics in these videos. Let's go ahead and jump in. I know there's a topic that you are personally very interested in, which is the apprenticeship model for product management. And when you use a phrase like that, how do you define that? What does it mean to you? How is that different from, say, an APM program? And tell me a little bit about how you think about that.
Yeah, so let's start with why I'm interested in it in the first place. This kind of goes back to that access problem. And if we zoom all the way out, this is an educational thing. It's what I care about the most, and probably what I'll end up dedicating my resources and time towards on like a 10 to 20 year time horizon. But if we think about the way that education, at least in America, works today, it's, spend the first 18 years of your life getting fundamentals, and then you jump into a 4 year span where you declare some particular interest, and then you actually jump into a different chapter where maybe that preceding 22 years of life doesn't actually even map to it, and now you got to learn things on the fly. The thing that is most telling for me is when someone says, I've learned more in 6 months on the job than I did 4 years of college, right? And I think we're seeing a bit of that right now, especially during this kind of weird world we're in 2020, where college is actually a bunch of different things that have been bundled together. And the part that's super valuable that I think everyone's missing right now is the social serendipity and like the connections that you get with people of different thinking. That I think is super valuable, and we got to find a way to solve that differently. But when it comes to what I'll call workforce preparation, I'm like highly skeptical of whether that is the right way to go about it. Just because I see how how much of a gap there is between what you do during those 4 years and then what you actually need to be successful in a job. And you see this between, people who study finance, and then once they get a finance job, it's like, did you learn all the Excel macros? Oh no? Okay, that's what we're gonna teach you first. Great, you got a 4 year CS degree. Did you learn how to actually like deploy code? No, you learned about algorithms? Okay, here's how to deploy. And so I think that's where I start seeing some examples like Shopify's dev degree that are like really interesting experiments in this direction, where it is a way to still get credentialed, it is a way to get paid so you're not going into debt, and it's a way for you to learn how a particular company that you respect does that discipline. Like, how does Shopify do engineering? It's still a super small pool, and so it's not open to a ton of people, but I love the direction that's going. And I view APM and RPM programs in a similar light, where they're coming maybe a bit late in the funnel, but they're essentially saying, hey, instead of you spending more time studying or figuring out what you're going to do, we have a structured playground for you to essentially get the skills that will actually have you be impactful, and you're going to be in the work. And this is where my broader skepticism around like all of these kind of PM schools cropping up comes in.
Yeah.
I have a pretty fundamental, not disagreement, but like misalignment, that you can learn how to be a PM without real work. PMing a hypothetical product is useless, in my opinion, at least. Like, you can't simulate something unless you have the pain of the outcome, right? And so that for me is where I look back in history at the apprenticeship model and like blacksmiths and trading and like, cobblers and all this other stuff. That's how people actually learned it, was by doing it and by shadowing and by having that ability to like truly be in the moment with someone who knows what they're doing, because you then increase the feedback loop of someone's ability to like learn something new, right? And so if you can take an 18-year-old who has learned how to learn, right? Because that's actually what I think K through 12 should focus on, is teach someone how to learn the things that they're interested in. I actually don't care what they learn. I just want them to learn how to learn. At that point, if they think, oh, this PM thing from a rough perspective sounds interesting, great. Shove them into that world. They're not going to be behind if they decide to switch careers later in life, because people do that already. And so they're on equal playing field. They get in the door, and now they can either be a fly in the wall with someone who knows what they're doing, or even better, guaranteed there's a ton of environments that there are going to be all the things that a company wishes they had more time to do, but deprioritize because they can't fund the extra headcount, or they don't, just have the time to do it. And being able to marry that pent up workforce with that pent up value, I think in a framed environment, I think is really interesting. I just haven't quite figured out how to actually scale it. And then this goes into a totally different topic, but somewhat related, is colleges are also, at least the top tier colleges, are proxies of value. So it almost doesn't matter what you study at Harvard, for example. If you got into Harvard, you got into Harvard. You are now smart, and someone will hire you, right? Um, I think a similar concept applies to certain disciplines at certain companies. And so, per what you were saying before, if I was a PM at Google or at Uber, I'm now a good PM. Obviously, you're going to like probe into what I actually did there, but you'll at least give me a chance. And for those companies of some relevant size, let's call it minimum 1,000+ company size, they've probably developed a way of doing things, right? There's the Square way of product management. There's the Uber way of product management. There's the Airbnb way of product management. These are now schools of thought, essentially. And you as a student can subscribe to one and say, I want to learn how Airbnb does product management. I want to go to school at Airbnb. And now if you can develop these programs and empower these companies to have these programs, that's where it gets really interesting for me, because you can say like, I got a degree, like technically, from Airbnb. And that is an interesting moniker that you can take with you to a bunch of different places. And it lowers the risk then of the trade-off that you're making. So anyways, I could keep talking about that forever, but.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you haven't subscribed yet already, we've got a ton of great content coming out on both the consulting and the product management career paths on a weekly basis. So go ahead and subscribe, and that means you'll get all of our videos as soon as they come out. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.